It may seem more than a little questionable that an athlete who never once competed in an organised sporting competition should be included on a channel dedicated to pioneering sportswomen. Yet, to exclude legendary bodybuilder and weightlifter Katie Sandwina would be to rob the history of women's participation in these twin sports of their earliest and most significant trailblazer. For although Katie undertook her entire athletic career in a circus vaudeville setting, making a living flexing her muscles for popular entertainment, her influence was such that as late as the 1980s, she was still considered by many experts the benchmark against which contemporary female lifters were judged. The 19th century proved the great age of the circus, in which venal impresarios, most notoriously P.T. Barnum, developed eclectic programs for public entertainment, featuring everything from trapeze artists and clowns to animal tamers and freak shows. One of the circus's preeminent attractions in this era was the so-called strongman, the forerunner of today's bodybuilders, whose strapping physiques, bulging muscles, and outrageous feats of strength became a show in and of itself. The greatest of these strongmen was German Eugene Sandow, who, in the 1890s, moved to the United States and was hired by renowned theatre impresario Florenz Ziegfeld to flex in a loincloth, adding a physically imposing touch to Ziegfeld's chorus girl-filled Broadway revues. Sandow rapidly became an icon in the bodybuilding weightlifting community, not least for a young Austrian-born circus performer, Katharina Brumbach, newly arrived in the United States, who changed her name to Katie Sandwina and set about proving that women too could thrive in Sandow's testosterone-fueled profession. Katie was born to a pair of travelling Bavarian circus performers in the back of a wagon on the outskirts of Vienna in 1884. Her parents made their living as a strongman double act, and Katie, like so many children of circus vaudeville performers in those days, was inducted into the family business from the earliest possible moment. She was performing handstands on her father's palms before she could walk, and by the age of 16 had become the star attraction of their act, performing a variety of eye-catching feats of strength and, as a finale, challenging any man in the audience to a wrestling match. Indeed, it was in this arena that she met her future husband of 52 years, acrobat Max Heimann, who always claimed that he fell in love with her when she effortlessly pinned him before a packed audience during one of her live performances. By her late teens, Katie had developed into a major attraction on the German circus tour, so much so that in the early 1900s she and Max emigrated to New York to try their hand in the more lucrative American market. It didn't take long for Katie and Max to make their mark, developing a double act in which Katie lifted and tossed around her smaller husband to the gasps of astonished onlookers. As her reputation grew, Katie attracted the interest of prominent circus impresario John Ringling, then owner of Barnum and Bailey Circus, who had seen her perform and signed her to his company as a ringside attraction. Before long, she had been promoted to centre ring, as Ringling set about cultivating an elaborate persona for her, all done in the breathlessly hyperbolic style in which circus impresarios specialised. Indeed, the hyperbole and hokum that accompanied Katie's career has proven something of a headache for serious historians, for it has been difficult to disentangle the image of Katie cultivated by her employer and which she was legally obliged to spruik in all her press interviews from the realities of her feats of strength. Most obviously, the tale was spread far and wide that she had adopted the surname Sandwina after vanquishing Eugene Sandow himself in a weightlifting contest, a myth perpetuated to this day, but which most scholars believe almost certainly never happened. On the other hand, there can be no doubting the fact that Katie was the real deal as both a bodybuilder and weightlifter. She stood at 5'9", weighed 210 pounds, her flexed right biceps measured 14 inches, and she was widely acknowledged to have been able to lift more than 300 pounds above her head. Her circus act featured her bending iron bars, breaking chains, hurling stones, using her husband Max as a human barbell, resisting the pull of horses to which she had been tethered, and, perhaps most spectacularly, acting as the foundation for a bridge over which marched a line of people followed by a fully grown cart horse. Amidst all the accolades, however, Katie's strongwoman career provides one of the earliest examples of the struggle all too many sportswomen face of reconciling their athletic physiques and impressive physical accomplishments with patriarchal expectations of femininity. Katie, throughout her professional life, was forced to defend the bulging muscles that underpinned her career. Indeed, the strongman strongwoman scene at the time was rife with academic analysis of the human body, often rooted in the pseudoscience of eugenics, which advocated the callous doctrine of biologically improving humankind by encouraging its finest physical specimens to interbreed, whilst demanding the sterilisation and, in extreme circles, the extermination of the physically and mentally unfit. Within this academic milieu, strongmen like Eugene Sandow were upheld as man's physical ideal. Strong women, by contrast, were perceived as a different matter altogether. Katie was by no means the only strong woman doing the rounds in circuses and vaudeville, and plenty of her compatriots, especially the butcher and less stereotypically attractive among them, faced vehement criticism of their supposedly masculine appearance. Katie, though, with the propaganda machine of Barnum and Bailey Circus behind her, was able to circumvent such criticism and manipulate it to her advantage. On the subject of her unusual physique, Katie's views proved impressively progressive, for although she never challenged contemporary society's narrow definition of femininity, she nonetheless saw no contradiction between her high femme fashion choices and her talent for breaking chains and lifting barbells. Armed fortuitously with what were widely considered at the time attractive features and an hourglass figure, Barnum and Bailey had little trouble promoting Katie as the perfect physical specimen, a female Sandow who was nonetheless as womanly as a woman ought to be. The press, too, jumped on the bandwagon. One article in the New York American, for instance, enthused that the beauty of her features is positively startling. With her curled upper lip and her classic chin, she has the look of some heroic work in marble. Her throat is a column. Her shoulders and back might have been hewn by Michelangelo. Katie's positive attitude towards the intersection between her strength and femininity is hardly surprising, since she had already cultivated a wider reputation as an ardent feminist, advocating for female circus performers, especially other strong women, whilst, in a directly political context, becoming one of the more outspoken suffragists of her generation. Indeed, so active was she in her pursuit of the vote that she was sometimes dubbed Sandwina the suffragette. It is worth noting in this regard that Barnum and Bailey, like all good hucksters, naturally saw headlines in controversy and actively promoted Katie's suffragist views, perhaps most notoriously in a deliberately provocative article entitled "Happy Family Ruled by Giantess Makes Anti-Suffragists Tremble," which ran with the header, "The anti-suffragists who go to the Barnum and Bailey Circus at Madison Square Garden and see Sandwina, the German strongwoman, lift her husband and 2-year-old son with one arm, tremble for the future of the anti-cause. When all women are able to rule their homes by such simple and primitive methods, they will get the vote or take it." Katie kept herself in incredible shape throughout her life, only retiring from the strongwoman circuit in her early 60s to open a cafe with her husband Max. By the time she died in 1952, she had lived long enough to witness the birth of women's bodybuilding and weightlifting as modern competitive sports, as a new generation of well-muscled young women took up the baton she had passed. Laying bare that she was no mere performance artist, the lifting record of over 300 pounds Katie established at the turn of the century would not be bested by another woman until 1987. If you enjoyed this content, I'd recommend checking out my new book, Hollywood's Women of Action, From the Perils of Pauline to Wonder Woman, which examines the development of the action heroine as a character from the silent screen era to the present day. It's available from Amazon and other international booksellers. To purchase, follow the link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.